Hi there, I'm Stephen Durkin, CEO of AusIMM, and a warm welcome to our leading conversation series where we catch up with amazing thought leaders at our various conferences around the country. And here today in Perth at our Critical Minerals Conference, having a conversation with Professor Aleksandar Nikoloski, who is the Professor of Extractive Metallurgy here in Perth at Murdoch University. Welcome to Leading Conversations.
Thank you very much, Stephen. It's such a pleasure to be here.
We were having a conversation just before we jumped on camera, a little bit about your personal background. Maybe that's a good place to start in terms of when you first came to Australia in 1989.
Yes.
Relatively young man. Just a little bit, if you could share with me what brought you to Australia in the first place, then what took you back home and brought you then the second time to Australia, if you could.
That's a very interesting question. Thank you very much for asking me this. This is quite personal. So going back to 1989, I was a high school student, and my father was basically, he brought the idea of opening up the horizons for me and for my brother in the future. And he completed his postgraduate study and was a postdoc at Stanford for part of his life before he returned to Macedonia, or what used to be then Yugoslavia, and became a professor at the university.
I see.
But he always maintained that
back
Yugoslavia or Macedonia was a very small environment.
Wow.
So when Yugoslavia started going through some turbulent periods, he realized that there was an incentive to maybe consider going back to the US or maybe Canada or Australia. So that brought Australia in our sights, and there was a very popular TV series at the time called Return to Eden. I don't know if you remember that.
No, bit,
but that certainly pivoted us more towards Australia because it's sunny and beautiful and beaches and all that. So that brought us to Australia the first time in '89. It was intended to be a permanent move, but it didn't last. After about a few months, we realized that it wasn't all just sunny beaches and beautiful weather. I think my mom probably tilted more towards going back because she missed her family and friends. That led to a period of about 6-7 years, during which I completed my chemical engineering study in what by that stage was Macedonia or North Macedonia these days. Right. And I returned to Australia in '97 to study postgraduate extractive metallurgy. That was that early phase of my life.
And was that at Murdoch University that you did
so
the
in '97, I went to Murdoch University, knocked on the door of one of the academics there, Professor Norm Stockton, and expressed desire to study for master's or PhD. And the following year, I completed an honors research degree, which was like a mini master's, which you can do in Australia, and progress to a PhD after that. That was a great experience.
I see.
I remember that for me, it was a big challenge also because I was a great student in chemical engineering overseas, but Australia was a new environment. I really felt like I needed to prove myself. And I remember my supervisor, Norm Stockton, sometimes coming to the lab late at night and saying, "You're still here?" I'd say, "Yeah, I'm still here." He said, "But you got to do some other things other than just do experiments all the time." I said, "Don't worry, Norm, life is long." And I no longer think that anymore. I don't think life is that long anymore, but at that stage of my life, I certainly did. And I am very grateful for thinking that at that time, because I could really focus on fundamental problems and develop my fundamental skills and knowledge and understanding of physics and chemistry and metallurgy, which served me very well subsequently.
I see. And a common theme through your career history has been this notion of applied research, and you've had a really rich academic career, as well as a lot of exposure and experience within industry itself. Would that be kind of a fair way to describe it? Has that been important?
I think in many respects I was very lucky.
Right.
I was very lucky that I landed in the environment that I did at Murdoch University, which had a very well-established school of metallurgy at the time.
Yes.
I also had an upbringing which was very favorable to research and education, and that led me to believe that I should focus all my energy to that and it'll be worthwhile. And I had great mentors at that time. Noam Stockton, my supervisor for the honors, subsequently Professor Mike Nicol and Professor Ian Ritchie, who was head of the Parker Center CRC at the time. I think that they recognized certain talents in me, which helped me be in an environment where I could develop my skills.
I see. And fast forward to more recent times, there's of course at Murdoch a newly established extractive metallurgy hub.
Yes.
Which you're leading.
That's right.
Tell us about the hub. Kind of what's the concept involved, and what's the work all about?
About 10 years ago, I was the academic chair of extractive metallurgy at Murdoch University. Having spent some time in industry before returning to academia, I had a good understanding of where industry and academia fit together.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
And as an academic of extractive metallurgy, I was asked, what would the extractive metallurgy program require in order to grow in the future? And by this stage, extractive metallurgy had existed at Murdoch University for almost 50 years. And we had done a great job in helping develop the technology and the human resources that underpin the mineral resources sector in WA. And I said that what we need is to bring all of our facilities, which over the years have grown in a sort of random fashion in different laboratories, in different buildings, under a single roof.
I see.
And that idea was received very favorably. However, it took several years before we could finally achieve developing that single platform, which we now have in the Extractive Metallurgy Hub at Murdoch in Rockingham, to help deliver the kind of service that we have shown we have the capacity to deliver for the next 50 years.
I see. And is the hub then, now that I understand that concept, is it proprietary research from Murdoch, or is it somewhat agnostic in terms of where that research is initiated?
Is a physical facility which has specialized laboratories for mineral processing, hydrometallurgy, pyrometallurgy, electrometallurgy, mineral surface characterization instruments, analytical chemistry, and a piloting facility. And it helps bring all of those key unit operations under a single roof, where we can do research, where we can do teaching, and make sure that we continue to develop this technology.
So it's almost like a showcase.
It is
in terms of being able to say this
is infrastructure.
The infrastructure. That's
in Australia, it's always been difficult to organize the laboratory, the physical tools to do the kind of work you need to do to develop new technology. And this enables us to do that.
In some parts of Europe, I know from kind of previous roles I've been in, they sometimes talk about this as being like test beds or that kind of concept. A bit similar idea. Okay, right.
So we have a number of PhD and master students doing research in those laboratories now. We have research staff working on developing new technology, applied projects. And we also have a place where we can bring the community and stakeholders and tell them about our research. So we hope to have regular seminars there.
Okay. And I know a particular part of your professional passion is very much around recycling and repurposing professional expertise around batteries.
Yes, that's true.
Maybe just a little bit about kind of your perspectives on the mix from mine versus recycled materials to meet demand for battery metals. Just tell us a bit about kind of unpack that concept.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you very much for asking me that. You see, everything around us is made of elements, and majority of those elements are metals. And traditionally, we have focused on producing metals for construction industry like iron, and for some aluminium, also some electrical applications like copper. But these days, there is so much high tech and so much electronic equipment that recycling that material makes a lot of sense, financially as well as environmentally. And about 10 years ago, which appears not that long ago these days, I was first tasked with helping to develop a recycling technology for spent lithium-ion batteries.
Right.
It's amazing that in that short span of about 10 years, we've done so much work on this.
Right.
We've developed technologies which were initially focused on systems which are sort of the bread and butter of the metallurgy field, like hydrochloric and sulfuric acid. And we reached the point where we can now extract those elements using vinegar and sugar as a reductant.
Wow.
And achieve a significant sustainability in the way that we produce those elements. But these are just one group of elements that we use in batteries. They're electrochemical systems. Anything can be recycled. And certainly with majority of elements that make this world, being metals, metallurgy becomes a key tool in the toolbox of our sustained human development, if you like, because everything around us is either mined or grown.
Of course.
And even the materials which are grown, which are carbohydrates, are still mined from the ground, but plants are doing it for us. It's really important that we inform our community that professions such as extractive metallurgy are doing a key role in helping deliver the building blocks from which our world is made, the fabric of our society.
Do you have any hero stories about, if say we were talking here to a couple of high school students, any hero stories that you can think about in terms of some of those recycled minerals?
Look, in terms of hero stories, I think that it's really important to bring it to their attention where it fits.
Right.
And a very good example that I could draw from is my own kids. I asked my kids, what do you do? Because they seem to be playing video games all the time. And they say, oh, well, we're playing this video game. And I said, what is it called? It's Minecraft. I said, what do you do in that game? They said, you have these little cubes and they're different color and different shape. And you put them together and you make the environment. You make like a castle or you make some whatever. I said, well, this is exactly what I do. I mine elements from the ground, which are mainly metals, and I purify them, and then I put them together and I make the things that help us have the quality of life that we like. I said, oh, that's wonderful. I said, well, what would you like to be when you grow up? A metallurgist.
Yeah.
So there you go. We need more metallurgists in this.
So let me explore two very philosophical but important questions for our industry. One is picking up the very point you've made, the massive gap that we now have in our country, certainly, in terms of metallurgists that are so critical in terms of the mining value chain. How significant an issue is it, and what are we going to do as a country about trying to face into that challenge?
It is a major issue.
Yeah, I think
it is a major issue because in a country which is so dependent on mineral resources, we have so few schools that teach metallurgy. Because we have increased the number of elements that we consider essential for our economy. We call them critical minerals now, critical metals. That's a group of about 31, but some of them are grouped, PGMs and rare earths. So actually, we're talking about majority of the elements being critically important. And it's important to understand that all of those elements that are metals are processed using relatively standard group of techniques, which we call unit operations, which can be grouped into mineral processing, pyrometallurgy, hydrometallurgy, electrometallurgy. This is the standard set of tools that we need to process all of them, to produce them and make them available for manufacturing whatever we need. However, at the moment we seem to have only 3 universities which still teach such units. So that generalization is something that is hurting us. I don't know if we can do much about it, but what we can do is make sure that at least those universities or schools that still provide that specialized training collaborate very closely, that they have the platforms such as the Extractive Metallurgy Hub where they can work on developing new technology and educating people and making sure that the people are aware how significant this is for us.
Is it an oversimplification to think that we've got lots of still chemical engineers coming through the system, and as long as we can explain to those chemical engineers how important our industry is going forward, that we'll be able to convert them into metal? Is that a little simplistic?
Chemical engineers is metallurgists are chemical engineers. They're just a specialized group of chemical engineers who have focused on a particular aspect, a bit like dentists versus general medical practitioners. So if we didn't have dentists, general medical practitioners would be fixing the teeth and it would work fine. But if we can have dentists, presumably they know a little bit more about the teeth than about the general medical practitioners.
Right.
That's why we need metallurgy to be delivered so that we know what there is to know.
Yes.
I find that one of the key aspects for chemical engineers to understand before they become good metallurgists is the dynamic nature of the feed material that we're processing. Because engineering is all about transforming a feed into a product. If the feed is ore, making sure that you can transform it into a platinum or gold or nickel or cobalt, which subsequently can be put together into devices that we need.
Yeah.
So making sure that we have that well addressed is really important.
Yeah, I think without that kind of, when you sort of unpack that and talk about kind of the mining ecosystem, it highlights the point that without all of the other skills sitting around the industry, we're just kind of, at the end of the day as a country, just sourcing and providing those, the
boundaries are merging, but there is so much out there to know.
Right.
We have to have some kind of specialization. In our limited ability to attract school leavers to specialized courses, we have to find ways of delivering those specialized units, perhaps as a postgraduate option, but they need to be available. And how we do that is a challenge to answer. I'm sure that doing it together is part of the solution.
Okay.
And I'm sure that organizations such as the AusIMM have a critical role to play in amalgamating those stakeholders into delivering the type of services that society needs. It's really important to make sure that those service providers, the universities, are not competing against each other.
Sure,
that they're working together, that 100%. Because we're all servicing the community through servicing our profession.
Yep.
That's really important to understand.
I love that concept of collaboration. For us, we see that as being so essential for the industry going forward. We feel strongly that as an industry, we're better and we're stronger when we all work together.
Exactly.
And even just take a really simple concept, explaining to the community at large what our industry is all about.
Yes.
We're not going to achieve that through one company or one organisation. We have to all lean in on that together.
Exactly.
So when we all kind of, a big part of Critical Minerals Conference here has been this national narrative around critical minerals being essential for the energy transition, and Australia being uniquely placed to play a really significant role on the world stage. Is that like a dream, or is that is that reality from your perspective?
I think that is reality.
Yeah.
It may sound ambitious, but when we break it down into components, we realize that Australia is a very fortunate country to be endowed with a lot of mineral resources.
Yes.
At the same time, we have a very well-developed skill base.
Yes.
Even though we need more, we still have very sound skill base, and we have the infrastructure for supporting that kind of industry. We don't have to develop everything ourselves. We can collaborate with partners in the US, in Europe, in Asia, Japan, in Korea, which have very strong manufacturing sectors. All we need to do is make sure that we continue to supply the ingredients that those manufacturing plants need in order to fabricate the goods that humanity needs. They will come and park their future factories here, utilize the resources that we can deliver. And a lot of cases, the technology that delivers those small-scale final products is automated. It's robotic.
Yeah, of course.
What really needs to go into them is the feed materials, which are those elements from the ground. We need to make sure that our minerals resources sector is appropriately supported to deliver not just iron and copper and zinc, but also rare earths, lithium, vanadium, manganese, all the variety of elements that the future complex devices require. And we know how to do that. Basically, as I said, the set of unit operations such as mineral processing, pyrometallurgy, hydrometallurgy, electrometallurgy, they're the standard unit operations that you apply to produce each and every one of them, even though each and every one of them requires slightly different conditions.
I see.
And how you adjust those conditions is determined by our laboratory work.
I see.
In facilities such as the Extractive Metallurgy Hub.
See. You've got me thinking a thought that I've never had before, which is that when you think of automation and artificial intelligence, in a way the world becomes smaller.
It does.
And potentially this kind of concept of working in collaboration with other countries to tap into different parts of the mining ecosystem becomes potentially a more vital opportunity for Australia.
Absolutely.
Is that a
It is
fair
a very fair thing to say.
Yeah.
I recently visited South Korea, and one of the concerns expressed was that the resources are finite in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
They have limited resources, but their creativity is infinite.
Mm-hmm.
However, in Australia, our resources seem to be almost infinite, so this is like a match made in heaven.
Right,
And
beautiful.
South Korea is just one example.
There are many.
We have Europeans,
Yep.
which have very sophisticated manufacturing sector.
Uh-huh.
We have the US, we have Japan.
Mhm.
All of those are partner countries with which we can
100%.
very effectively collaborate. We want them to come and have a look at
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
in terms of resources.
Yes.
We want them to consider our technology capability
Yep.
for producing them
Yep.
and consider parking some of their facilities for manufacture here.
Yep.
They could be what they call these days dark facilities, where you don't even have to have light, let alone people.
Wow.
Machines will do the fabrication if
Wow.
we have the ingredients.
Yes.
It's all about the ingredients. And we go back to that concept that everything is either mined or grown.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you have the supply
Yep.
and that you can do it in a way which is sustainably, environmentally acceptable.
Yep.
And as I said, when we started developing recycling technology, started with the obvious solutions,
Mhm.
which was hydrochloric and sulfuric. We subsequently learned that you could use orange juice and vinegar for the same purpose, which is domestic
Wow.
chemicals.
Yes.
We can do a lot of such examples.
Wow.
It requires research.
I'm genuinely inspired by that vision you've described. That's got so much substance sitting behind it. It's very practical.
Thank you very
the
much.
way that we're going to work together.
That's right.
My final two questions, again, a little philosophical, but one would be there's always a massive challenge in Australia to get universities better connected to industry.
Yes.
Why do you think that's from your perspective, working deeply in the university system, why can't we get that right? And there's many examples in other countries where they do get that connection working more effectively in Australia. So is it a cultural thing in Australia? Do you have a view on that at all?
This is a very good question, and I don't want to rush because I have the answer for that, and I want to answer it correctly and it be understood. I was very fortunate to do my PhD embedded with industry.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time when I did my PhD, we had something called the Parker Center Cooperative Research Center.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of that center, I was a student at that center, I had the opportunity of collaborating with BHP.
Mm-hmm.
BHP funded some of my scholarship and allowed me to use their laboratories for some of my research.
Wow.
So early on, I developed a very strong understanding of how industry functions.
Yes.
And what kind of research data is valuable for industry.
So practical
and
research,
what
yeah.
academia
Yeah.
requires for its reward structure.
I see.
And it became very clear to me that the two are very different.
Mm-hmm.
Industry is operating in the commercial environment, in the commercial reality,
Yep.
whereas academia, previously at least, was much more sheltered by operating under some kind of government umbrella, which to some extent passivated the desire to collaborate. It was there on a goodwill basis. So you had some academics who wanted and some who didn't. These days, because of the reduction in government funds, everybody is motivated to collaborate more with industry, but that's a slow process. We need to speed it up.
Right.
I think that collaborative approaches are the way to do. Cooperative research centers maybe are part of the solution because they bring the two stakeholders together, the industry as the user of the know-how which is being generated, and the academia as the service providers, the producers of the know-how.
Yes.
And here we have two groups of people who can collaborate very effectively if there is the environment which facilitates that kind of collaboration. I believe that that would be the future.
So maybe a common theme emerging is the need for us to have more formal mechanisms, whether it's the hub,
we need to have
the
the mechanisms.
CRC. We need the mechanisms. Without that, it's just like my golf swing, hitting hope.
Exactly. It's fine to say we need to collaborate, but we need to have some kind of formal framework which motivates people to collaborate.
Final question from me. It's been a fascinating conversation. I've really enjoyed it. Appreciated your time. You've been a long-standing supporter of AusIMM, and you've obviously been at this conference all week. Maybe just a final few reflections on your 27-year connection with our wonderful organisation.
Thank you very much, Stephen. My collaboration with AusIMM has been very warm and heartfelt right from the beginning. When I completed my honours study, my supervisor at the time, Professor Stockton, said to me, "Do you know what I have to do now?" I said, "What are you going to do now?" He said, "I'm going to recommend you for the highest student award by the AusIMM, which at the time was the J.B. O'Malley medal." And I was awarded the J.B. O'Malley medal. Subsequent to that, my relationship with AusIMM continued to grow and grow, and for several years I was member of the Metallurgical Society of the AusIMM.
Yes.
It was a great honor.
Yes.
It was a forum where we could address the questions that mattered to the students and the community. And I think that this conference, that is probably the most prestigious conference that we have for metallurgy in Australia, is a testament to that as well. It is a wonderful conference, especially taking place in Perth. Perth for me is like the Hollywood for metallurgists.
The Silicon Valley of the mining industry.
So many projects and opportunities to work. We need to sell that message to the public. We need to make them aware so that more of our students pursue careers in this field and make use of those opportunities.
Well, you've given us a beautiful line to finish up with, which is Perth is the Hollywood of the mining industry.
Yes.
Another new line for us. We love that. Massive respect from not just our organisation, from our industry, for you personally and your work. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend some time with you.
Likewise.
And all the very best.
Thank you very much, Stephen. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you very much.